Rounding out our month of spooky games, we have a crowd-funded title from a local first-time designer. Sophisticated Cerberus Games, based right here in Minneapolis, has introduced the Stifling Dark, a hidden movement game just in time for Halloween. They sent us this prototype copy to preview, and knowing how much we love hidden movement games, I could not wait to get into this one. Let me share my excitement with you as soon as humanly possible before the darkness overtakes us all. The goal of the game. As the investigators, you have 3 paths to victory, and once you get to the end game, you'll have to choose the one you want to pursue. Either assemble parts and install them into the broken down truck to escape, or you could opt to hunt down the fuse for the fuse box that controls the gate and escape on foot. Finally, the more daring adventurers can choose to end the evil once and for all by killing the adversary with a special weapon. As the adversary, your job is much more simple. Instill terror into your victims' souls and then gruesomely murder one of them. All you need is one, and your bloodlust is sated for another decade. Rest, rest, perturbed spirit. Your first game will easily clock in at 2 hours or more, and once your group has a firm grasp of the game, you can bring 3 to 5 players from beginning to end, somewhere between an hour and a half. The Stifling Dark's rulebook still needs some help in the setup sections, but the gist of it is that you'll take everything out of the box, decide what scenario you're going to play, I only had one to choose from, follow the specific setup for that, and then do the standard setup. This can get pretty involved. The butcher must hide some number of clues all around the map, and then the heroes enter the arena with their respective starting gear, depending on how many players. It all makes perfect sense once you get a grip on the game, but brand new players are going to feel very overwhelmed if they aren't used to the genre. I've skipped through all that for you here, and we have the butcher set up with their player screen and minimap off camera, for as you can see, this game's quite the table hog. We'll start with the investigators, and then I'll show you how the adversary plays. You'll begin armed with only your wits, a flashlight, and your special ability, which can vary pretty wildly depending on who you've chosen to bring to the map. On your turn, you can perform a variety of actions, ending with deciding whether or not to turn on your flashlight. That part is especially satisfying, as it's the centerpiece of the Stifling Dark. We'll get there. The basics are as follows. Each investigator must be activated and complete their turn before another investigator can go. And once all of them have done their thing, then the adversary gets control. An investigator can move some number of circles equal to their speed value, or can sprint by spending a single stamina and adding a sprint die's worth of additional movement. As you move through the sawmill, you can pause your movement at any time to interact with your space. This includes any number of things, such as picking up or dropping an item, opening or closing a door, using an item or card, or interacting with the space you're on. When you've stopped moving and interacting, you can choose whether or not to turn on your flashlight. And now, we're going to get to the crown jewel of this game. Take this acrylic flashlight arc and line up the base with your character. You can orient the acrylic any way you want in order to light up specific circles on the board. Any circle that gains an uninterrupted line, that is, without being blocked by a wall or another object, becomes bright, and the adversary must reveal themselves if they are in one of those circles. They also must reveal any objects or evidence that is in those circles. Which brings us to the adversary. Here we're set up behind the player screen with a smaller version of the game's maps for us to do all our secret deeds. At the beginning of the game, we're placed on the map anywhere we like within 4 circles of one of these red skull spaces. Additionally, we have to place 1 evidence token somewhere in each building. Finally, we gather 9 item tokens alongside 1 cursed item and scatter those across the map, each one within 2 circles of each adversary space. There's also a gathering storm that threatens to increasingly complicate things for the investigators. All we have to do is kill 1 investigator, which seems easy until you realize that because of the rules of horror films, we can't just kill someone with a rifle and then let the credits roll. no. Too easy. We must first stalk and instill fear into them. The Butcher has two states, revealed and unrevealed. While hidden, the Butcher can get close enough to give the investigator the spine chill condition. If the Butcher can prevent being discovered for a full round after that, they can stalk the same player again and gain progress on this track. Attacking an investigator requires you to spend this progress and deal out some wounds. As soon as an investigator takes 4 wounds, they're dead. So while it may seem like focusing one of them down is the best play, keep in mind that a single flick of the dreaded flashlight is enough to bring you out of hiding. And most things aren't as scary when you can see them, so you have to get back into the shadows to do any real harm. Your abilities here are based on the number of players in the game, so depending on just how much light you have to contend with, you may have more or less pure horror to hand out. Make sense? Good. Let's get back to the main game. I glossed over some of the minutiae here for the sake of expediency. There are a lot of smaller rules regarding items, evidence, cards, and powers. Are there too many? Well, that's gonna depend, honestly. I have made it a point to avoid using the word fiddly to describe games I review, as it generally is such a vague term so as to have no meaning. The Stifling Dark approaches what I would consider too much. Each of the individual evidence tokens gives you an ability, and the items you'll find also do. The Storm I mentioned earlier, each of those cards affects gameplay in some manner. There's a headspace limit to what some players can keep track of, especially during their first play, and this is certainly stifling. So, with all that said, does this game work? Well, thematically, it's a massive hit. The game's artwork evokes a powerful theme of a misty, moonlit creep zone. Set awash in black and that special horror-only monochrome green, it's instantly clear what you're getting into. The characters on each player mat are set off in bold colors perfectly, and a great style across the board, easily identifying each of the basic tropes. Special attention was clearly paid to a diverse cast, and that's incredibly welcome in the genre. Overall, the art direction is fantastic and does an incredible job at setting the mood of the game. The hidden movement aspects also work very well, with each click of the flashlight bringing a huge amount of tension to the table. You can almost hear the music swell every time you reveal the shadow of an object around the corner, and the pure, undiluted joy of catching the Butcher in your lamp must absolutely be experienced by everyone before you die. Where Stifling Dark trips over a branch is perhaps due to prototyping, but most of the game components either feel too small or too big. Starting on the adversary side, the mini-map doesn't hold the item or evidence tokens well, and the adversary standee is also too big. The flip side of that is that the main game board is huge. I understand wanting a giant map for players to be able to maneuver around each other and run around in, but it causes everything to just feel overwhelming. If and when you gather the last piece of evidence you need, you're given final objectives that feel really daunting. Even if you can get from one side of the map to the other in only 3 or 4 activations, the scale just feels off. The game is a table hog as well, with a map and adversary board alone. You're well past what most people's kitchen tables can hold. Add to that player mats, tokens, cards, and not only does the table get cramped quickly, but so will your brain. Trying to keep track of all of the statuses, items, and riffraff on the individual boards can become quite a chore. Now, that does seem like a major issue, but honestly, if you can make it work and you're into that level of detail and housekeeping, Stifling Dark is well worth it. Plus, all of these feelings quickly melt away the moment you get to interact with the game's flashlight auras. These acrylic teardrops are absolutely spectacular and elevate the game from standard fare to something I want to keep getting back to the table right away. I just wish the rest of the game rose to the level they present. Now, it may sound like I was disappointed by the Stifling Dark, and if you're getting that impression, you're not entirely wrong. I wanted so much more from this game because of the promise it makes on the table. With such spectacular box art and table presence, I kept running into things that would force me back to the rulebook, or realizing that we had played the adversary completely wrong during our first play. It can sour you from coming back. I believe that there's room for all of these things to be cleaned up, however, and if there's enough attention paid to ease gamers into this experience, then it could easily be my go-to game when I want to get something spooky on the table. It really is that full of promise. I wanted to be completely floored from the minute I set it down. What I ended up feeling was frustrated, which perhaps is even more evoking of the game's horror theme. The Stifling Dark is an admirable freshman offering from a brand new company. While there are issues, it remains to be seen just what will make it into the final box. Let's go through our checklist before I give you my final thoughts. In the box, rulebook clear and non-gender pronouns. Currently, the rulebook is quite a mess, but so it goes with preview games. Also, it's progressed quite a bit from when I first got this game, so there's promise here. Check out the comments below, as I usually come back when we get the retail/fulfillment copy and fill in some unknowns. Iconography clear. This is where I really want the rulebook to step in, hopefully someplace prominent like the back cover or maybe a player aid card. The iconography isn't completely obtuse, but it's also not entirely intuitive. You'll for sure want some help, especially during setup. Packaging well done. Unknown. Our prototype copy has a basic insert, which does the job pretty well, but storing the game vertically could get messy with some additional stretch goals. Pay attention to this part, as a game with this many moving pieces needs to have a decent organizational structure. On the table, good representation. The 8 investigators revealed thus far are 4 men and 4 women, with 6 of those being people of color. A nicely diverse cast, with 4 more investigators still to be shown at the time of this filming. Component quality. Medium. Overall, everything feels good for a retail release, but not particularly luxurious, save for the centerpiece acrylic flashlight arcs. I'm completely okay with that, however, as the price point is a perfectly Halloween sweet $50 for the base game and $70 for the deluxe version with custom sleeves. Replay value, high. Even with the just one adversary, hidden movement games depend so much on your group and what sort of objectives the hidden player has that there should be a full dozen or so plays with the same people before this one even starts to approach feeling stale. Fun to lose. Most of the time. The trick with hidden movement games in general is balancing them so it's difficult not to stumble into accidental victory too early. Conversely, you don't want the investigator players being forced into a 20-minute long mop-up just to officially lose. I think the Stifling Dark finds a nice balance here, but you're still going to end up playing at least one game sooner or later that's either far too long or far too short for your tastes. It's the nature of the genre sometimes, and precious few titles have figured out the solution. The Stifling Dark is for sure not perfect, but it relies on just enough tried and true mechanics, while the new introductions like the flashlight are absolutely spellbinding and worth the price of admission. If hidden movement games are your holy grail, then you owe it to yourself to check this one out. If you're desperately seeking a new spooky game for your shelf, then this is a no-brainer, if you'll pardon the pun. As always, I'm Nicholas, reminding you to help protect the game population. Always sleeve your cards. Hey everyone, if you liked our video, please hit that sub button and ring the bell for notifications. Check out all of our other offerings at goodluckhighfive.com, and please consider becoming a patron of the channel over at patreon.com/GLHFmagic. It helps us keep making videos, reviews, and podcasts. You can become a member for any dollar amount. We're also always looking for new games to review. You can reach me at glhfnicholas@gmail.com. You can follow me, Captain N the Game Master, at CaptainNGM on Twitter and Instagram, and follow the channel at GLHF Magic. Remember, please shop at your local game store whenever possible. Until next time, I'm Nicholas, and good luck. High five.